Hi everyone, welcome to another Procreate tutorial. This is the drawing that we will be completing in today's video. A nice little teddy school photo kind of picture. So if you are new here, I mainly post Procreate tutorials, so if that is something you're interested in, go ahead and subscribe. Otherwise, before we get started, you will just need to download the color palette and the special polka dot brush that we will be using in today's video. They are both linked in the description below. They're totally free to download. For the color palette, just open up the file that downloads and it'll automatically pop into Procreate so that you can use the same colors as you follow along with the video today. And then for the brush, just open up your brush library. If there's a certain folder you like to save your brushes to, like a custom folder, or whichever folder you would like to save it to, find that. Click the plus button at the top here and then click import and find the brush wherever you downloaded it. I will also post the canvas dimensions, color profile, and layers needed on the screen here and in the description below so that you can use those to set up your canvas. So take a minute to get everything ready and then come back and we will get started. Okay, this is the color palette that we will be working with today. So we have our background colors, our main teddy bear colors, and then all of our detail colors. So we will just go ahead and get started on the background, and we are going to build that on layer 1 here. So we're going to leave our background color layer at the bottom alone. We'll just be on layer 1. We'll grab the first color on the first row of the color palette and drag and drop that to fill the background with this lightish color. And then we're just going to add a bit of texture, and then we're going to kind of create a little almost like vignette effect where the outer edge is going to be darker than the inside to create a nice background for him to be in the center of. So still on layer 1 here, we are going to grab the second color on the top row of the color palette. And for our brush, to create some good texture, we are going to grab the grunge brush under the textures category. Set that to 100%. And we are going to just drag this all over the background. You might not be able to see it very well on the video, but you should see it on your canvas. Just kind of go all over the place. Get a nice texture like so. Okay, next we will grab our third color on the top row, same layer, same brush, and we're just going to focus this more on the edges now. So this is a darker color, so we're just going to kind of, round on the corners and then go up and down the sides, around the corner again, across the bottom. So just, you can go lighter in some spots, heavier in some spots, just to kind of create some good variation. Like so. Then we'll grab the darkest color, the fourth one on the top row, and we will do the same thing, just staying a little bit closer to the edge with this darker color. So something like this, very, very simple. And with the background done, we can go ahead and move on to our teddy bear. So we're first going to just lay down the different shapes. So the head, the ears, the face, and the body. And then we will go back and add all the texturing and details. And then we will add the bow tie at the end. So let's just go ahead and go to our layer menu. We'll add a new layer. We will grab the first color on the second row of the color palette. And we are going to start with our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. We will set that to about 50%. And we're first just, like I said, going to lay down the shapes. And And then even afterwards, when we start adding the texture, we're also going to add kind of a fuzziness to our shape. So this monoline brush is going to get us really, really smooth lines, which is good for just laying things down. But then in the end, we want him to look kind of fuzzy. So we'll add that in later. But yeah, so monoline brush for now. And we are just going to first draw his head, which is just going to be a oval shape. It's going to be very close to a circle, but just a little bit shorter from top to bottom. So just go ahead and draw a nice, good oval shape. Hold it down. Touch your finger to the screen to make it a perfect circle. And then kind of size it, you know, roughly about this big. So we have room for ears on the top and then the body on the bottom a little bit, going off the bottom of the screen. So maybe somewhere around here. So I set it to a circle, let it go, and then click this edit button at the top. And we can just widen it from right to left a little bit. Just a little bit. Again, we want it pretty close to a circle. So I'm just going to do mine the teeniest little bit like so. We will center it in a moment, but go ahead and just fill that in. Make sure that there's no fuzzy edges when you're filling it in. If you have a little gap in between your line and where you filled it in, just undo it. And then when you drag and drop your color again, hold your pen on the screen and drag this threshold bar at the top up a ways until it fills in that gap, but without filling outside of your shape. Because if you drag it too high up, it'll just go out. It'll just bleed outside. So just drag it up enough to where you don't have that gap there. Okay, and then this is the shape of our head. So grab your arrow tool, set it to uniform if you need to resize it at all. You can also reshape it on freeform a little. So if you need to widen it or unwiden it at all, set it to freeform and you can do so. Otherwise, uniform, you can resize it all at once if you need to. So again, just make sure we have room for some big ears on the top left and right, and then a little bit of the body at the bottom. So I'm just going to make mine a teeny bit smaller. Maybe about like so. And we're just going to center it on the screen. So make sure the snapping is turned on in the bottom left here. And just drag it around until you see your two yellow lines pop up. So we have a vertical line and a horizontal line, yellow, that pop up. That shows that we're directly in the center of the screen from top to bottom and left to right. So again, now that we're centered, make sure that you still have room for your ears and your body. If you don't, you can just, resize it a little bit further. And just make sure to recenter it if you resize it at all. Next, we are going to draw the body underneath it. So we are going to do that on a new layer underneath the layer that we're currently on. Let's go ahead and just add a new layer, drag it below our head layer, grab the second color on the second row of the color palette. And essentially, we're just going to draw a curved line to meet up with his head from left to right, starting outside of our canvas here. So I'm going to start outside of my canvas on the left side, pretty much in line with where the left side of my head is. Draw a curved line going down into the right off the screen again. Hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth. And then you can click this arc button at the top to edit it if you need to as well. So you can adjust the ends of the line, you can adjust the curve of the line and kind of where it meets up. But we just kind of want it to meet up with our head here nicely. Try to kind of center it as well as best you can. And then go ahead and fill it in. Okay, and then you can click your arrow tool. If you need to resize it at all, you can do so. And then if you want to recenter it on the center yellow line, you can as well. So it lines up nicely there. Okay, and then next we are going to draw the ears. We are going to do those underneath the head as well, and with the same color. So we are going to go to our layer menu, add a new layer. So above our body, below our head, that works. And in order to get our ears symmetrical, we are going to turn on symmetry. So we are going to use symmetry on our face later as well. So let's just go ahead and get that turned on. So we will go to the gear icon in the top left corner. Under Canvas, click to turn on the drawing guide, and then click Edit Drawing Guide and select Symmetry here. Make sure you see a vertical line pop up. If you do not, you might need to switch to vertical under the Options menu here, and then go ahead and click Done. And you should see this line on your canvas, and then the most important thing is to make sure that this layer that we're on now on the layer menu says Assisted under it. If it does not, you can click on it and turn on Drawing Assist. So the symmetry is turned on for this layer. And then that is why it was important to center our head so that our ears would hit our head at the same point. So we are just going to start on the right side here on the top right area of his head. And we are just going to essentially draw circles. So let's just draw a nice full circle coming off the top right side of his head. Hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to get a perfect circle. And then again, let it go. Click the circle button at the top. Go ahead and resize them if you need to by touching somewhere in between the two blue dots and then just adjusting the size. Adjust the placement here so that we're just kind of hitting this top right corner. And a good chunk of the ear is covered by the head there, like so. And then go ahead and fill them in. Okay, next up we are going to draw the face. So we are going to do that on another new layer right above our main head layer. So add a new layer there. Click on the layer and turn on Drawing Assist so that we can use Symmetry. And the first thing that we're going to do is draw his snout. Okay, so we're going to start about in the center of his face from top to bottom, maybe a little bit further down than like halfway. And then right on our symmetry line. And then we're just going to start there, draw straight outwards, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to make it a perfectly horizontal line. You know, just a good amount of room. This is going to be like the width of our snout, so nothing too crazy, but not too small either. So I'll leave mine about there. Starting on the end here, I'm just going to make a curved line going from the right to the left side all the way through, even just kind of ignoring our symmetry line here. So we're just going to go from one side to the other side, hold it down. Click edit at the top, and then you can just kind of adjust this button until they meet up a little bit nicer. And then you can extend it, make it longer or shorter if you need to. But just make sure they meet up fairly nicely, like so. And then go ahead and fill that in. So that's going to be our snout. We will mess with that some more later and add some extra details to it and kind of change the shape of it a little bit. If you like the size of it, you can leave it alone, or you can change it if you need to with the arrow tool on either freeform or uniform. I might just put mine on uniform and make it a little bit bigger and then just recenter it on that line there. Again, keeping it a little bit below, like halfway from top to bottom on his face. Okay, next we're going to add the eyes and the eyebrows. Those are going to be with the Symmetry tool as well, but on a new layer. So let's add a new layer on our layer menu at the very top. Click on it and turn on Drawing Assist so we can use Symmetry again. And now we're going to switch to one of the detail colors down here, the second one on the last row. And we are going to switch our brush as well. We are going to switch to the dry ink brush under the inking category. We'll set that to like 30%. And this just kind of is going to give us a little bit of a fuzzy edge to our shapes, but still a pretty solid shape overall. So we're going to first draw his eyes, and we're going to draw them up a little ways from the top right of this corner. So like in a diagonal to the top right of this top right corner of his snout. We're going to start there and draw a nice oval. That will be his eye. Hold it down until it turns into a nice smooth shape. You can click edit at the top to adjust it further if you need to change the size or placement at all. We need room around it to add some fuzziness, and then we need room around the snout to add some fuzziness as well. So don't make them too big or too close, but maybe something about like this, and then go ahead and just fill them in. Go ahead and just cover up this fuzzy line with your brush a little bit there, so it's mostly filled in and we still just have that fuzziness around the edge. And then next we're going to draw our eyebrows. We're going to draw those also on a new layer. So add a new layer on our layer menu, click on the layer and turn on Drawing Assist. But we're going to use the same color and same brush, but I just want to put them on a different layer in case we need to move them like individually at all. So, or from our left side of our eyeball here, we're going to go straight up, leave a good distance between the top of the eye and our new line here. So I'm going to start right about here, draw a line kind of down and to the right, a pretty short line, hold it down. And then we are going to make a line going up and to the right from this point a little bit, and then back down to connect to our original line, like so, to make like a little triangle and that will be our eyebrow. Okay, next we're going to add the cheeks, and those are also going to be on their own new layer. So we'll go to our layer menu, add a new layer, click on it, and turn on Drawing Assist so we can use Symmetry again. Grab the first color on the last row of the color palette, our pinkish color, and we are going to switch our brush this time. We are going to switch it to the 4B Compressed Charcoal under the Charcoals category. So this is the brush that we're going to be using for a majority of all of the fuzzy texture and all the shadows and highlights for our teddy bear. But we are going to use it starting now for the cheeks. So let's set that to like 10%. And essentially I'm just going to create some little cheeks next to my snout here, just kind of in this little space between my eye and my snout, kind of off to the side here. So I'm just going to start there and just start working in a kind of circular motion, like a tiny bit tilted down into the right on this right side, so that they just have a little tilt to them. Just kind of working them up to be a little bit bigger and thicker in the middle, and then just kind of faded on the edges. Maybe something kind of like this. And then we're just going to add the teeniest little detail to our cheeks while we're at it. We are going to grab the 5th color on the 2nd row of the color palette, this really, really light one. We're going to drop our brush size down super small to like 2 or 3%. And I'm just going to add some tiny little lines in my cheeks, 3 of them, going across almost like vertically so that they're kind of tilted in our cheeks. So a little line there, a longer line in the middle, and then a little line on the edge. Super, super lightly. So just something very simple like that. Go ahead and drop your brush size more if you need to. Okay, so that is some good progress there. So now we're going to work on finishing off more of our face. So we are going to kind of finish the snout in terms of the shape of it, because this is not our final shape, and adding some fuzziness to the edge of it. So let's first go back to our snout layer. Click on it and turn off Drawing Assist. Go back and find the color that we used for it, the 2nd color on the 2nd row of the color palette, and we are going to stick with our same 4B compressed brush. We'll maybe increase the size just to like 5%. And we are first just going to go around and follow the shape of the snout that we already have laid down with this brush to give it a nice fuzzy edge. So push down pretty hard so that you cover up the original line entirely, and there's no like if you do it too light, you can see this obvious line there. So push down pretty good to cover that up. And we are, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're making it less perfect by doing this. Okay, and then the biggest thing is that across the top, we're going to have a little bit more of a curve. So we made a straight line originally, so we're just going to kind of curve that a little bit further. Again, pushing pretty hard to keep like a nice solid shape. But we want a nice curve there from like so. And then I might just overall make it a little bit bigger. So I might just kind of go around again and just go out a little bit further all the way around to just make it bigger. So you can change up the size of anything if you need to, if you want to make it longer or wider, this is the time to do so. But otherwise, I think that looks really good now. Okay, and now we're going to add the highlights and shadow around the eye to really make them look like they are embedded in our fur. So to do that, we are going to add a new layer underneath our eye layer here, so right above our snout layer. Click on it and turn on Drawing Assist so that we can use the Symmetry. We are going to stay on the same color here that we have the 2nd one on the 2nd row, same brush at 5%, and we are going to make an outline of the eye on the top half with this darker color. So I'm going to start the halfway point on the left side, and I'm just going to kind of work my way out and just create a nice good outline going all the way around to the other side till we're about halfway through on the other side. Give it a nice good outline there. a good distance, but nothing too crazy, like so. And then we will grab our lighter color, the fourth one on the second row, and do the same thing on the bottom. And then when you get to the middle where they meet, just kind of lightly go over it so that they kind of blend together. So just do it really, really light there so they just kind of nicely blend. And then we'll go around the bottom and do the same thing on the other side, lightly there. Like so. So then when you zoom out, you can see that they kind of look more embedded. It'll look way different when we get everything else done. And then lastly, on the eyes, we are going to add the little highlight inside. So there's like a big highlight on our eye here, and then some really tiny highlights in the corners. So we'll do the big highlight first. So we'll go to our layer menu. We will just go to our eye layer that we have here already. So it should still say assisted on it, make sure that it does. We will grab the third color on the last row of the color palette, so it's a little bit lighter than our original eye color, which was the second color. Same brush at 5%, we're just going to start in the middle, and we're just going to add this very, very lightly till we get close to the edge, but not quite to the edge of our shape here, to add a nice highlight in the middle. I'm just kind of pushing harder in the middle and then kind of letting it fade as I get closer to the edge, like so. So just a nice little highlight like that. And then lastly, we're going to add the highlight in the top right of the eye. To do so, we are going to be on the same layer, but we are going to turn off Drawing Assist. So click on this layer, turn off Drawing Assist so that we don't have symmetry anymore. Grab the fourth color on the bottom row of the color palette, the really light one. And then we are going to switch back to our dry ink brush under the inking category. Set that to 10%. And then we're going to zoom in on the right eyeball here and we'll make our first one. So we are going to do in the top right corner of the eye here, we're going to make one pretty long oval, like so. And then next to it on the bottom right, just like a tiny little dot. Okay, and then we'll do that on the other side. So same exact position, like the top right of this eye now. Same thing. A longer oval and then a smaller dot. So just kind of zoom out to make sure they look similar. Redo it if you need to, but that's why we had to turn off symmetry, because with symmetry on, it would have been on the left side of this eye and it would have been the opposite with our dot on the bottom left, and that just wouldn't look right. So, okay, and then lastly, we are going to draw our nose. And now that we have all of our, fuzziness around our snout, now I feel like we can draw the nose. We couldn't really do that beforehand because it wasn't, our shape wasn't quite complete yet. And so that is going to be on a brand new layer. Again, turn on Drawing Assist. Grab the second color on the last row of our color palette, the same one that we used for our eyes. We are going to be on the dry ink brush under the inking category at about 10%. And in the middle here, I'm just going to start towards the top of my snout. On the middle center, symmetry line, draw straight out in either direction. Hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to make it perfectly horizontal. And then from the end, we're going to draw a line to connect to the middle to make a triangle. Hold that down as well. Make it as long or as shallow as you would like. And then go ahead and fill that in. Use your brush to kind of cover up some of the fuzziness if you need to. Okay, and then from here, we're going to kind of just round everything out a little bit again. So kind of like our snout. So I'll just start on the top here. Kind of round the top a little bit more, around the sides a little bit so they're not so perfectly straight. Like so. Okay, and then we're going to go to our layer menu. We're going to click on this layer and turn off Drawing Assist before we make the line down the middle. I might make my nose just a little bit bigger, so I'm going to grab my arrow tool on Uniform, increase the size a little bit, recenter it on my center yellow line there, and place it nicely at the top of my snout. But then now with our same brush, we're going to start in the center at the bottom here Just make like a nice straight line going down pretty far. You can hold your pen down if you want to make like a perfectly straight line, or you can just kind of draw really quick to get a nice good one. And then at the top, we're going to kind of have it taper out a little bit, like to meet up with our snout, so it's a little thicker there. Then kind of tapers down into being like much thinner. Like so, and I'm just kind of having it go, you know, with a little gap at the bottom still. Okay, so now that that is all laid out, that's our entire face. So we are going to now make it look like he is looking to the right a little bit. So to do that, we are going to go to our layer menu and we're going to select all of our face layers. So starting with our nose at the top, we're going to slide right on our cheeks, right on our eyebrows, right on our eyes, our eye outline, and our snout. So everything above our head layer should be selected. Click our arrow tool to select everything at once. Have it set to uniform. The first thing we're going to do is tilt our head a little bit to the left with this green button at the top. So grab it and just slide it to the left a little bit, maybe at most like 93% at the most, maybe like 92, somewhere in there. And then we're going to move the whole face to the right a little bit. So we don't want our eyebrow like going off of our head or anything, and we don't want to even be like this close to it. So we just want to get it a little bit closer. The other best thing to do is to resize it down from this direction. So grab this top left corner, move the whole thing just down into the right on uniform to kind of just create a lot more space on the left side here than we have on the right side. So just kind of do that. So the teeniest bit of rotation, moving it to the right, downsizing it to the right, whatever works to get you like, you know, kind of more on this right side of the face here. Okay, then we can make a few other changes. So the first biggest change that I want to make to really help kind of sell this is moving his nose. So I'm going to grab his nose layer, should be at the very top, grab my arrow tool, and I'm going to move his nose over on his snout a good amount so that, again, there's more room on the left side than there is on the right side, because if we're looking at it from that angle, we would see a little bit more of the left side of his snout. So just kind of move it like so. And then at this point, that's pretty much it. The only other thing is if you want to change anything about your face. So if you want your cheeks to be bigger or smaller, your eyes to be bigger or smaller, your snout to be bigger or smaller, you can do all of that. So that's why we drew everything on separate layers. The only obvious issue is that your two pieces are on the same layer since we use Symmetry. So it's kind of hard if you need to resize anything, but here's what you can do. So let's say that you want to increase the size of your eyes. Well, first off, we have the two eye layers, right? So make sure you do them both at the same time. So grab both of your eye layers. So your eyeball layer, your eye shadow or outline layer, slide right on that to select it as well. Grab your arrow tool on uniform, and then you can increase the size of your eyes. So I used this bottom right corner to do so. So then this left eye, just place that where you want it. So maybe right there. Now this right eye is way off, obviously, but just make sure that your two layers are still selected. Grab your selection tool, select around that whole right eye, grab your arrow tool, and then you can move it over and place it where it needs to be to look like it matches, you know, the rest of our picture. So you can do that with anything. Let's say you just want your eyes like spaced out more. You can grab your, again, we kind of want like our eyebrow to stay in line with this. So you could grab your eyebrow layer also, grab the arrow tool, maybe move all of it to the left to create more space there. Grab your selection tool, all three layers are still selected. Select around that whole right side and then move that over. That way everything still stays like spaced out nicely, you know, between your eyebrow and your eyes. So do anything that you want to do like that. I am going to move everything back the way that I had it, like so. But you know, I might want my cheeks to be like a little bit bigger and a little bit like higher up. So I'm going to like maybe make this right one the focus. So I kind of place that one a little bit bigger and kind of where I want it. I'll grab my selection tool, select around this left cheek, move it over just a little bit, maybe make it a little bit bigger on this side. Just place that nicely there. So something like that. So just move around anything that you need to move around. You can still do it later too if you need to, when we get done, because we'll leave all the layers alone. So the next thing we're going to draw is a little tuft of hair on his head. So we're going to do that on a new layer behind his head. Let's just add it right above this ear layer. So add a new layer there. Grab the third color on the top row of the color palette, this darker color, and grab our dry ink brush still under the inking category at about 10%. And we're just going to add a little tuft of hair to the top of his head. So I'm going to start like a little bit left of my center line here. I'm going to make like a little tuft out like this. Make another one like this. And then I'll make one going the other way and then back down. And then we will just connect that at the bottom so the lines are connected, and then fill that in. Go ahead and just use your brush to kind of, again, fill in the little gap, smooth it out a little bit, like so. Okay, so we wanted to add that first because we will kind of try to blend it into his head a little bit when we get to our shadows and stuff. So, okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is add all the fuzziness and textures to all of our other shapes now. So we're going to start with the body and work our way up. We're first going to add the fuzziness to the edges like we did with our snout, and then we'll add all the main textures and shadows and highlights and stuff. So we will go to find our body layer on our layer menu. So it should be at the very, very bottom, right above our like background layer that we made. And it is the second color on the second row of our color palette. That is the color we will use. That is the same color that we used as like our base color on this layer. Switch back to our 4B compressed charcoal brush under the charcoals category. We'll have it set to about 5%. And we are just going to essentially just, again, follow the shape that we already have laid down here. Make sure to cover it nicely so we don't see that line. But we want like a nice fuzzy texture. Push down pretty hard. We want it to be, pretty solid still and not like super like just wispy. So do the same thing to the other side. All the way down like so. And then now we will add the other like shadows and highlights and texture to it while we're here. So to do that, we're going to go to our layer menu on this layer, click on it and set it to alpha lock. We will grab the next darkest color, so the third one on the second row. And we are going to use the same brush for our texture, but we're going to increase the size quite a bit to like 25%. And with this darker color, we're going to focus this on the edges. So we'll start on this right edge here, add some of it there. Same thing on the left edge. And then just kind of push harder on the very edge and then push a little lighter as I get closer to the middle to kind of like let it fade in. And then we'll add just a teeniest little bit under his chin, nothing too crazy, just a little shadow there. Okay, and then we are going to grab a lighter color now. So the lighter color than the second one on the second row is this first one on the second row. So we'll grab the first one on the second row and we will just kind of add this everywhere that we didn't like touch yet already. So pretty lightly, just to add some nice good texture in the middle, like so. And then we'll grab the lighter color still, the fourth one on the second row, and add this just right in the middle to add like a nice highlight right there. Again, pretty lightly so it all kind of blends nicely together. Okay, so that's essentially what we're going to do on every single layer. So next up is our ear layer. So this one has drawing assist turned on. We're going to turn that off. So we're going to click on it and turn off drawing assist first. We don't want to have symmetry on. We want them to be a little bit different than each other. So again, we are going to first grab our second color on the second row of our color palette that matches our base color. Same 4B compressed charcoal brush, but drop the size down again to like 5%. And we're first going to fuzzy up the edges. So again, and if we get like kind of a weirder shape, that's okay. The ears don't have to be like perfectly circular like we have them. So, you know, if it gets like thicker in some areas, that is, and changes the shape of them a little bit, that is okay. Same thing on the right side here. Again, pushing down pretty hard so that we get like some nice solid color, nothing too crazy. They got a little bit big on me, so I am going to downsize them. So I'm going to grab my arrow tool on uniform. I'm just going to do my top right corner here, downsize it a little, and then just kind of reposition them. I might like reposition it where like this left one looks really good. I like where it's placed and everything, but the right one's a little weird. But then I'm just going to switch to my selection tool on freehand, select around this right side, arrow tool, and then I can move it independently and kind of place it where I would like it there. Okay, that looks better. So now once you have that done, we can go ahead and move on to our shadows and highlights and texturing. So again, on our layer menu, click on this layer and set it to alpha lock. Same thing, we'll start with our third color on the second row, a little bit darker than our base color. Increase our size of our brush again back up to like 25. And we will focus on the bottom left here, kind of in like a curvy motion to kind of match the shape of our ears. And we're going to cover like about halfway because we want our ears to be a bit darker than everything else. So we're going to cover like halfway of this, and then we'll add another darker color to the very edge. So just kind of the bottom left half there, the bottom right half here. Okay, and then we are going to go in with a little bit lighter color. So the first one on the second row, which is a little bit lighter than our base color. And we will do this all just in the top corner that we didn't touch yet. So this top area here, top area here, like so. Just kind of blending nicely, kind of like following the top curve here. And the top curve here just had like a little bit of highlight there as well. So something kind of like that. Then we'll grab our darker color, the last one on the second row, 6th in line. And we are going to add just the teeniest little bit of this to the bottom edge. Just a little tiny bit. Like so. And then on second thought, I got a little bit too much lightness in the middle here. So I'm going to go back to my base color, the second one on the second row. Just going to kind of add that back in the middle in kind of like a circular motion, so it's not so harsh of like a line where our highlight is. So it's a little less weird looking and everything's kind of more rounded. Okay, so this is about what it should look like now. And then the biggest thing on our ears is that we are going to make the little pinks inside of the ears. So we are first going to lay down the really dark color and then the pink color on top of it. So let's grab the darkest color, the 6th one on the second row again. Same 4B compressed charcoal brush, but we're going to drop the size again to like 5%. And we're just going to zoom in here on the left side, and I'm just going to make like a little arch. Hold it down. Click edit at the top to kind of adjust it a little bit. And this is going to be the outline of my little pink area. So just kind of make the size and shape how you would like something about like this with a little space still on the left and right side. Grab my brush again. I'm just going to kind of like thicken this up a little bit, darken it up a little bit now that I have my shape down. We can just kind of fill in the whole middle area as well. Like so. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So again, we'll start by just making a singular arch, hold it down, click edit, adjust the shape to where you like it. Make sure to maybe even zoom out a little bit, make sure it looks similar to our shape on the other side, size-wise and stuff. So maybe something about like this. And then again, I will go back in, darken it, fill it in a little bit. And then the one on the right got a little too big, so I'm going to just kind of undo the whole thing and redo it. So don't be afraid to do that if you need to. I'm going to go back in, draw it, hold it down, edit it. And just, yeah, maybe not as big this time. Something like that. Now we'll go back in, fill it in again. Okay, that looks better. Okay, and so the next we're going to go in with our pink color. So our first one on the last row of our color palette. So we're just going to kind of mimic this shape inside, leaving a little bit of the dark brown edge showing. So just draw it again, hold it down, click edit at the top and adjust it so that, yeah, just a little edge of the brown is showing. Like so, and then go ahead and do the same thing, fill it in really good in the middle. You can still have some of the texture showing, but you know, mostly filled in like so. You can leave them brown if you want. I kind of like the look of that as well, but we are going to go with the pink. But we'll do it again on the other side. Edit. Okay, so then that is it for the ears. So next up, we're going to do the head and the face. So we are going to go to our face layer here, our head layer. First, we're going to make the fuzzy edge. So we are going to grab our original color, which is the first one on the second row of the color palette. Same 4B compressed charcoal at 5%. And go around all the way to make our nice fuzzy edge. Okay, and again, it's okay if your shape even gets a little wonky in some areas, that's totally fine. So now we are just going to add the shadows and highlights and stuff and all the texture. So go to our layer menu on our head layer here, click on it and set it to alpha lock. And we use this first color on the second row for our base shape. So we'll add shadows with the next two colors and then highlights with the two colors after that. So we'll first grab this second color on the second row, same brush, increase our size back up to 25 again. And we are just going to focus on the outer edge of our head all the way around, a good distance in so that we can add the even darker color on the very outer edge. So you know, go in a good bit. And then one of the biggest things, again, to kind of make our head look like it's facing to the right just a little bit is to add more shadow on the left side here. So I'm going to go in a little bit further with my shadow on the left side than on the right side. Again, go all the way around, like so. And then just kind of fade in a little bit on the edges too, towards the middle. Just go very, very lightly there to add some nice texture and just kind of fade it in. Okay, then we'll grab our next color in line, the third one on the second row, the darkest one, and focus this mostly on the edges, pretty lightly, again on the right side, just barely on the edge there, all the way around. And then on the left side here, we can show a little bit more of it. Like so. So all the way around with that. And then one of the biggest things is this is the same color as our little hair tuft. And we are going to kind of have it like fade in as if it's connected. So to do that, we are going to drop our brush size down to about 5% with this color. Zoom in at the top here where our little hair tuft is and just kind of go over this area like so. Go pretty heavy at the very edge where it meets up with our little hair tuft. And then just get a little bit lighter and kind of like a little point here to just kind of help fade it into like our head shape, like so. So it's something like that at the top of his head. Okay, and now we're going to do the highlights. So we are going to grab the fourth color on the second row of our color palette, increase our brush back up to 25 again. And this is going to just kind of be like our main just texture color. So we're just going to kind of do this on everything that we haven't touched yet so far. So just kind of get this all the way around in this lighter area that's still showing. It's still like untouched by our shadow colors to add some good texture there. Like so. And then with our lighter color still, this fifth one on the second row, we're going to use this very, very lightly and just add a highlight on like the center of his face here in between like his eyebrows and up from his nose and stuff. So just like a nice highlight there, again, very, very lightly, maybe even a little like on his chin area, kind of, just to add some highlights to his face in some areas, like so. Okay, and then lastly, for like all of our shadows and stuff, I think, is our snout. So we will go to our snout layer. We already did the fuzzy edges to it, so we're just going to add the shadows and highlights. So click on it and set it to alpha lock. This was the second color on the second row that was used for the base color, so we'll grab the third color on the second row first. We'll drop our size a little bit to maybe like 15%, just since we don't have as big of an area to play with here. And again, we are going to do this just kind of all the way around. Again, a little bit more on the left side than on the right side, but all the way around for the most part, leaving a teeny bit in the middle untouched. But we are going to add an even darker color on the very edge, so go in a good amount. We'll grab our darkest color now, the sixth one on the second row, and just again focus this even further on the edge. All the way around like so. And then now we'll do two highlight colors. So our first one will be the first one on the second row, since that is lighter than our base color. So grab that and then just add that kind of all to this middle area here that hasn't been touched yet to add some good texture there. And then we'll grab the lighter color, the fourth one on the second row, and then we'll decrease the size a little bit to maybe 10%, and we will focus this just right in the middle, right where our little line is, and just kind of around there to create like a nice little highlight area there. Okay, and then even though our bow is going to cover it for the most part, we are going to add a teeny bit of highlight right under his chin even further than we did before, since they look almost like they're kind of blending together, the head and the body. We are going to go back to our body layer, grab our darkest color, the sixth one on the second row, same brush at maybe like 15 to 20%, and I am just going to add like a very, very nice like shadow right there. So I didn't quite realize how it would look until after we did it, and I needed a little bit more of a shadow there. So that looks a lot better. So go ahead and do anything else that you need to while we're here because next up is just our bow tie, and then we're done. So make any more adjustments to your shadows and highlights, do more or less or anything that you need to do to get it how you want it to look. We don't add a mouth, so we're not like waiting on that. I tried drawing a few mouths on him earlier and I didn't like any of them, so I thought it just looked way better without a mouth, so I left him mouthless. So next up is just our bow tie, and again we're going to use Symmetry for this, so let's go ahead and just get started on it. It's going to be at the top of all of our layers, so add a new layer at the very top. Click on this layer and turn on Drawing Assist so that we can use Symmetry here. Grab the 5th color on the last row of the color palette, or the first of our kind of maroon colors here, and go ahead and switch back to our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. And we're just going to start in the center here, and we will move it eventually so that it looks like it's again kind of off to the right a little bit, but we're going to use our symmetry line here while we have it. So go ahead and start kind of right in the center, and we are going to draw a line up and to the right a good amount, hold it down. This is going to be the start of our, bow tie shape. On the right side here, go down. Pretty much straight up and down, hold that down. Touch your finger to the screen to make it perfectly vertical. A good line there, and then go back towards the middle with another line, hold that down, and then go ahead and fill that in. And this is, way too perfect and stuff, so we are going to just go ahead and kind of round things out again. So we'll round out this edge nicely. I'm not holding anything down, but you can if you want. You can hold it down and make like a nice smooth curve there. And then we're also just going to kind of round out these other lines as well. So yeah, I held them down, and then you can edit the arc at the top if you need to. Don't worry too much about the middle here, we're going to cover that up. But just get a good, nice bow tie shape. Okay, and then next we are going to add a new layer right above this one. Go ahead and click on it and turn on Drawing Assist so that we can use Symmetry again. Grab the next color in line, the 6th one on the last row, and we are going to draw the middle of our bow tie now. So I am just going to start, in the middle, above like the center of my bow tie here a little ways. Draw a line like out and down a little bit, hold that down. Then from here I'm just going to draw like a curved line, hold that down, line back to the center, fill that in. Again, kind of smooth things out, curve some of these lines a little bit better. Like so that we get a nice kind of like knot. And then you can click your arrow tool if you need to move it at all. Mine ended up being like a little bit just too low overall. There's like a little bit more of a space at the bottom. So I'm just going to grab it and move it up a smidge so it's centered a little bit better, like so. Okay, and then now we will add some shadows and highlights to everything again. We aren't going to add a fuzziness to the edges, we're just going to add shadows and highlights and texture to it. So we'll first do this knot that we're on, so go to our layer menu, click on this layer, turn off Drawing Assist, click on it again and turn on Alpha Lock. And we used this 6th color in line, so we will grab the 5th color, the one before it, a little bit darker, to add like a little bit of a shadow to it. So we'll find that color, 5th one on the bottom row. Switch back to our 4B compressed charcoal brush under the charcoals category. Pretty low, maybe like 10% for this since it's a smaller shape. And I'm just going to focus on like the bottom left kind of corner and add a little bit of a shadow there with this. And some texture. Pretty much almost like halfway through it and in like a diagonal from top to bottom, left to right. And then we will do the same thing on the top right corner with a highlight. So the lighter color, the 7th one on the last row. And we will just kind of focus that on the top right side, like so. kind of going all the way through to just create some nice texture there. Then we will go to our main bow tie layer. Click on it and turn off Drawing Assist. Click on it again and turn on Alpha Lock. And we're first going to add a little bit of a lighter color as just kind of an overall texture. So that is going to be this 6th one on the last row, the one that we used for the knot originally. Grab that color, do this just literally all over, just to create some nice texture there. Like so. Then we're going to add a highlight on the tops of it with this lighter pink, so the 7th one on the last row. Go ahead and just add that in this top area like so on each side. And then we are going to add a shadow with this really dark color, the 8th one on the last row. We're going to add a shadow kind of right by the knot, so all the way on both sides of the knot like so, kind of following the shape of it. And then also on like this bottom area on both sides. Something like that. Okay, and then lastly we will add the polka dots. So that will be right above this layer that we're on currently, underneath our knot layer. So right above our main bow tie layer, add a layer above it, click on it and set it to a clipping mask. Grab the next color in line, the 9th one on the last row, and this is where we will grab our special brush that you should have downloaded, the dots pattern brush. So wherever you saved that, we're going to use that. I am just going to set it to 100%. All it does is change the size of the space that we're covering. It doesn't change the size of the dots. But the biggest thing is to get it to look more polka dotty. We are going to tilt our canvas at like a 45-degree angle like this. Because when you draw them straight up and down, it's like a grid pattern. And we want them to be like sideways so they look more polka dotty. So just turn your canvas like this, draw this all over the main bow tie area like so. And there you have our polka dots. So I might make them just a little bit less bright. And to do that, I'm just going to go to my layer menu on this polka dot layer here, click the N to open up our options and lower the opacity a little bit to maybe like 70 to 80%, somewhere in there, just so they're a little bit more faded into our bow tie and not so bright. But you can do that if you would like to. Okay, and then lastly, we're just going to move it. So first things first, let's just turn off symmetry so we can get rid of this line. So under the gear icon, click to turn off the drawing guide. Then we will grab our 3 bow tie layers. So the knot, slide right on our polka dots, slide right on our main bow tie layer. Click the arrow tool, and again, we are going to, it creates kind of a big space. This is how big our dots pattern ended up being. So we are going to tilt the whole thing a little bit to the left again, just like we did with our face, just the teeniest little bit. And then we are going to place it here, right at the bottom of his head. So if you want to make it a little bit bigger, you can do that as well, so that it kind of covers more of his, chin area, whatever works, however you want it sized there to fit with his body and his head and stuff. I might make mine actually a little bit smaller. So just kind of whatever works for you. And then that completes our drawing today. So I hope you had fun. If you did, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more tutorials from me in the future. If you would like to share your drawing on Instagram, I would love to see it. So go ahead and post it and then tag me so that I can check it out. While you're there, go ahead and give me a follow so that you can see what I'm working on next. Thanks for watching.